All right, and our top story this afternoon, of course, is from Parktown in Johannesburg at the inquiry looking into allegations of state capture. And for an update on today's proceedings, let us now check in with our SABC senior reporter, Mzwandile Mbeje. Mzwai, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through. More revelations from Agrizzi, and this time around, the former SAA board chairperson's name, Myeni, coming to the fore.
Indeed, Balisa, I mean, we have just concluded for the day, and Mr. Agrizzi continued really to paint that picture, which is a picture of corruption, a picture of exchanging monies, a picture of so many characters really being part of all of this. Earlier, he also spoke about journalists really releasing some of the names, of course, saying he has forgotten some of the others, so he was not able to really connect all the names of the people that received money. But perhaps, Palisa, what was obviously more interesting was when he spoke about the chairperson of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, Myeni, where he basically says she was receiving 300,000 rand, which was meant for the Jacob Zuma Foundation. But at some point, apparently, the CEO of the company, Bosasa, Mr. Gavin Watson, got worried, perhaps thinking the money did not reach the intended recipient. So as a result, and the issues surrounding Bosasa, insofar as the investigations and investigations were concerned, a meeting was somehow arranged at Nkandla, according to Agrizzi, where Mr. Watson was to attend. And what he is basically saying, Mr. Agrizzi says, when Watson went to that meeting, he took with him about 300,000 rand, so which he says was given to the then president. And then, interestingly, according to Agrizzi, he says when Mr. Watson was giving this money to the former president, he asked if he was receiving the other monies that were being sent or were being delivered through to Myeni. And then Mr. Agrizzi says the then president responded in the affirmative. But please bear in mind that Mr. Agrizzi was not necessarily in these meetings. He says he's taking this from those who attended the meeting, Mr. Gumede, and of course Mr. Watson himself. So that was one of those things really which came up here, and a number of others when you look at the role of the chairperson of the foundation, Myeni. He also spoke about him, or rather her, showing them confidential NPA documents. Remember the Bosasa group. So they were in trouble, they were being investigated, so they had a number of issues to answer. So these were kinds of the things that would really help arm them in the event that issues of that nature arose. To also talk about another issue of journalists, as I mentioned earlier, Palisa, Mr. Agrizzi basically said there were journalists who were being paid to do a positive coverage of Bosasa. And this came as a result of that meeting that was held between the Commission and the SANEF, I think on Friday. So where basically they raised concern to say the fact that last week he had mentioned the fact that some of the journalists were in the payroll, but the names had not been mentioned. I think the Commission wanted to clear that. That's why it wanted to know from Mr. Agrizzi. And then they mentioned the names of about 3 journalists, which was, I think one of them is Pinky Khwabane, so who has since issued a tweet saying she's not even met Mr. Agrizzi, and I understand that she will be on one of our platforms perhaps tomorrow morning, and then another Mr. Ntuli, and then another Miss Bongs. So those were some of the people. But on top of that, there were those who were contracted for consultancy work. someone like Benedict Dube and Mr. Stephen Lofa. And Mr. Stephen Lofa as well has issued a statement saying the work that he was doing was an honest work, and then as soon as he realized that there were instructions from Mr. Agrizzi to do illegal activity, he simply terminated that relationship. So I think Ms. Benedict Dube can't answer for herself. My understanding is that she is late. So that is basically the sum total of some of the things that came up, particularly earlier today, Palesa.
Yeah, so we've seen Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo suggesting that the commission should start at 9:30 instead of the usual 10 o'clock time. But then, of course, it looks like everything will resume tomorrow. Do we know if tomorrow will be Agrizzi's last day to testify?
By the look of things, Palesa, tomorrow Agrizzi will conclude his testimony. And I think the reason why Judge Zondo is basically saying he needs to extend times, it's perhaps because the evidence of Mr. Agrizzi would actually take about 9 days, because today is day 8 and tomorrow will be day 9. And I think he has done his own calculations to say if there is another witness again who takes so much time, so then the work of the commission would obviously be delayed. He actually has put it to the commission to say maybe we need to start a bit earlier, either 9 or 9:30, and finish at 5, because in his words, he says, Palesa, I want the oral evidence from the witnesses to be concluded this year. Remember when the commission said for the first time, he went to court to say, I think to seek for an extension of about 18 months, because in terms of the remedial action of the public protector, it was only to sit for about 6 months. So he went to court to seek that extension. But by the look of things and looking at the number of witnesses that are still to come, people that are still to be cross-examined, Palesa, you can see that this could easily take 4 years. So I think the judge realizes that so that we avoid that situation where the commission sits for the longest of times, maybe we must make some of the changes so that instead of sitting from 10 to 4, then we can start perhaps at 9 or 9:30 to 5, and then that would really impact in terms of reducing the issue of time. But as for tomorrow, as you have said, because people who will be coming here, we heard that there'll be some application, so we're still going to stick to 10 o'clock. And then, of course, Mr. Agrizzi will then continue with his evidence, and then we believe that he will conclude tomorrow. Oh. We were thinking perhaps it could go on until Wednesday, but it does appear that so the commission is also very aware and rushing some of the things through.
All right, Mzwandile, we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you so much for that update. Our SABC senior reporter Mzwandile Mbeje talking to us live from Parktown in Johannesburg.